What's up, everybody? Clayton and Stephanie gets here, coming back to you with Proximity Podcast episode number 4. I can't believe we made it to number 4, honey. I'm so stoked. So listen, we have a very, very special guest with us today. It's funny. My daughter asked me about this young man when I first used the word mentor for our guest today. And my daughter said, "Dad, how can you have a mentor that's younger than you?" And I was like, "Well, Justin's a little bit further along than your daddy is, and so that's why. Because our goal here at Proximity Podcast is to get in the room with men and women that are where we want to be, and this gentleman is certainly in many cases where we want to be today. So we're super excited to have Justin Prince join us today. Justin, welcome, brother.
We are so excited to have Justin, and the interesting part about our connection is that Justin and Clayton and I were all connected because we were all getting in the room with other professionals who were improving their skills and trying to be better. And so that's how our connection happened. And as we like to say, one conversation can literally transform your life. So a little bit about Justin Prince. Justin Prince is a global entrepreneur who has built 5 multi-million-dollar businesses that have generated more than $2 billion, that is with a B, dollars in revenue, and an acclaimed keynote speaker who has shared stages around the world with icons like John C. Maxwell, Jamie Kern Lima, Ed Milet, and a heart-centered husband. And he's a proud father of 4. He was raised in a broken home, has no college education. This is what I love. This is so inspiring. And began his professional career working construction, flipping pizzas, selling animated Bible videos at a mall kiosk. And in fact, his very first business venture left him below zero financially. So he was in the negative. And his first silver lining of success came while raising his kids in a 1-room loft above his in-laws' garage. Justin's unexpected rise has proven personal development strategies and tailored success systems have moved and motivated millions of people to create, design, and live an unforgettable life. And in his latest book, which he's going to talk about today, called Be the One, Justin shares the precise tools, habits, and action steps to help any reader to do the same. With a focus on practical and actionable advice, this book serves as an easy-to-follow instruction manual for anyone to, as Justin puts it, be the one. So,
Love
Justin, welcome. We're so excited and grateful to have you here.
Man, I'm so honored to be here. You guys are literally 2 of my favorite people on the planet, and love being around you. I love the name and the kind of the concept behind proximity. It's just so powerful. It's like if parents were given one thing that they could choose about their kids. So just imagine you could only choose one thing, and you could pick. What parents would pick that would have the most impact on their kids' lives is who they hang out with. Basically, they'd pick their friends, right? They'd pick the proximity of people they're with. And my life's better with people like you two. I like me best when I'm with you two. So I love seeing you guys. I love hanging with you, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh my gosh, we feel exactly the same way. So I already shared how we were connected with you, but I'd love to start by having you share your story with us. And I went into a little bit of that detail in your bio, but if you could go into a little bit more, because to me, that is one of the most inspiring things about your story is the humble beginnings that you came from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my wife and I live in Southern Utah. We have 4 kids. Our kids are a bit, we're all raising kids about the roughly same ages. So we have 19, 16, 14, and 11, and 2 boys, 2 girls. I was raised in a broken home at age 12. My parents got divorced. We moved 13 times in the 7 years through the teenage years. So I was my mom's oldest at home, and I was her oldest child when she got married. My dad had 2 kids. And so we just kind of bounced around, different schools, different church groups or whatever, because you're just kind of in different neighborhoods all the time, or different, rentals all the time. And had no professional background. As you kind of talked about, I made pizzas. I worked construction work. I worked at a mall kiosk selling Bible videos. My wife and I got married when I was 22. At 23, we had our little boy, who's now, not so little anymore. And I always had big dreams and big goals. I always kind of wanted to do something with my life. I always felt like my life had some like a purpose or some value to what I could accomplish, but I didn't have the vehicle, almost like the financial vehicle to be able to, to sink my teeth into. And I remember started my first business at 25. I just went for it, guys. Like I kind of got past my skepticism of like, and my fear of being a business owner and going for it and trying and, people making fun of you and the whole thing. And I just went for it. And over the course of almost 2 years, the company, the parent company that we were distributing their products for, that company actually went out of business. So when that happened, I was like below zero financially. I was like in a really tough financial situation, back on credit cards, back on taxes. You mentioned this in the bio, but at one point I moved my pregnant wife and our 2 kids in the loft of my wife's parents' garage. So I'm now working 2 part-time jobs. I'm 27 years old. I'm a grown man, live in the United States of America. My kids sleep in a closet. My wife and I sleep in this little loft. And I have 2 part-time jobs, and I'm like chasing the dream to be free as an entrepreneur. Like, one day I'm going to be successful. And anyone that has been in that or maybe finds themselves in similar situations, you start to kind of wonder, like, is this ever going to be real for me? Like you meet people like you two that have accomplished what you've accomplished and created this incredible lives that you guys have created. And you sometimes start to wonder if they're somehow different than you. In other words, like maybe they got some sort of secret sauce that you just don't have, and I wondered that too. I remember, many nights laying in bed at, 1 a.m, pitch black. And I say to my wife, we're both, we went to bed way earlier, and I say, are you awake? And she goes, yeah. She goes, are you awake? I go, yeah. And I'm like, honey, am I crazy? Like, am I chasing a fake dream? Is this ever going to actually really happen for us? And, I eventually figured it out with that business. I spoke all over the world with that company. I ended up, turning that into a real success. I ended up selling that business when I was 30. Did private equity consulting for the next 2 years. And then my current business, I came into a company that was a 25-year-old company. It's a couple $100 million a year in revenue, but it was 8 years of consecutive double-digit decline in revenue. I came in as a consultant originally, and then helped them to transform and turn around this company. And I ended up coming in as an equity partner. I said, I want to go lead. I want to go basically lead our sales and our marketing, and like our sales teams and leadership teams. And so we launched that business over 10 years ago, about 10 and a half years ago. And that business is now done $2.5 billion in revenue and millions of customers all over the world. It's been an incredible success story. We've paid out well over $1 billion in commissions to entrepreneurs all over the world, and built an incredible leadership team, amazing people, and been able to work with people like you two, and just like the finest people you'd ever imagine working with, And so my passion now, I made 2 promises. I'll share this. I'm driving down the freeway. I could literally show you guys right where I was, tears streaming down my face. I'm in the middle of this struggle. You're wondering if it's ever going to be real for you. You're back on credit cards, and anyone that's ever been in that or is in that situation, you can feel the financial pressure. It's the strangest thing. You can feel it when you gulp. You can feel it on the pressure on your chest. It's very visceral. It's very vivid. Like you feel the pressure financially, particularly as you're trying to provide for a family. And I remember having this conversation with myself, and ultimately a conversation I had with God. And the conversation I said was that made 2 promises. Promise number 1, I was like, if I ever become successful, I was like, I promise I won't forget what it feels like to struggle. Like just the pressure and the gulp and the strain and the wonder and the sleepless nights. And I was like, I promise I won't forget. Because sometimes what happens is as you become more financially successful, the time and distance passes to where you don't remember that gulp as much, So I was like, I promise I won't forget. And then number 2, second promise I made was I said, if I ever become successful, I will do everything I can. I'll wear myself out trying to help other people to achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. And to me, the book Be the One was this idea of like giving people the tools and the systems and the tactics and the strategies that they need. They like real practical stuff where they could identify themselves. Number 1 is the one. If you think about it, if you take your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, if you take the last 12 generations, there was 4,094 people from all over the world that came together to create you. And so this moment matters. You've never been this old before, and you'll never be this young again. So like what you do next matters. This is your moment, and you are the one. So it's identity, because so much of success is an identity process. Like You'll never outperform the way you see yourself. So you're like realizing like, man, my life has value and purpose and meaning. I'm not just here just to be here. I'm here to like make things happen. I'm the one. I'm the one they lived for, bled for, cried for, died for, laid it all on the line, the triumphs, the losses. They did all this for me to have this moment. But the second thing that's important for me to point out is it's not become the one. Like you already are the one. It's to be it. In other words, to have the tactics and the tools and the strategies and the systems and the frameworks and formulas to like actually be that one today, to step into that. And so that's why I'm so passionate about that book, is it's a fulfillment of that second promise of helping people that are, you know, like at that stage of like, man, I feel like I've got something in me. This is how you go unlock that. This is how you create and you design an unforgettable life.
That's so good. That's so good.
So, yeah, and I just remember the first time you kind of shared this concept with us, Justin, and I was like, yes, man. And I've been sharing it with my teams ever since you shared it with me, and it's inspired. You know, obviously you go much deeper in the book, but you know, just surface level, it's inspired a lot of people. You know, you're inspiring a lot of people before you even launch the book without even knowing it. It's like the butterfly effect, right? So it's just I'm so excited to read this book, man. So you know, I'm always curious because we're so, I mean, this whole podcast, the reason we did this is because, you know, Stephanie and I have been deeply impacted by you and by other men and women that are just a little bit further along, you know, the path, whether it's spiritually, physically, financially, relationally. And so I'm always curious, Justin, especially with you, man, like at what point, you know, because obviously you went through all the struggles, but at what point did you decide that you were going to go for it, and why? You know, I like, what was it about? Because there's so many people, you know, one of my mentors used to say, anyone can do this, but not everyone will. Some people will, you know, will get it. They'll be ignited. They'll find the spark, and others won't. And that's just a great mystery, right? So what was it for you? Was there a moment in time? Was there a mentor? What was it for you when you finally decided, I'm burning the ships, man, I'm just going for it?
Yeah. That's such a great question. There's so much power in what you're talking about. It's the power of decision. So the Latin root of the word decision, decision in the word decision means to cut. And then D means off. So an incision, when they made the word, was meant to cut in, and a decision meant to cut off. So in other words, you make decisions in your life to go, in this case, to go left or to go right. Well, you cut off all other possibilities because you made that decision. And you can track, even as you listen to this podcast, you can track every single decision you've ever made in your whole life, every single one to this moment. In other words, every decision you've ever made in your whole life has put you listening to this conversation right now at this moment in your life. And you can make new decisions that send you in an entirely different thing. So I'll give you a couple quick ones for me. That I don't feel like there was only just one. There was a couple ones. One, my parents were getting divorced when I was 12 years old. I remember I was in 7th grade. I was probably almost 13. I may have actually just barely turned 13 at this point. School had just started. And I'm sitting in a math class, and the teacher's talking. I don't remember anything the guy was saying. I remember I was literally just like daydreaming out the window, but I was like really in my head and in my thoughts. Do you guys remember, like in cartoons when we were little kids, they would have like a little good devil or a little good angel on the one shoulder and then a little bad little devil on the other shoulder? I was almost having this conversation with these two little devils on my shoulder, an angel and a devil, you know, as it were. And the little devil was like, hey, dude, do you realize you can drink alcohol, you can have sex with girls, you can like flunk out of school, you can get in fights, you can do whatever you want. And guess what? The rest of your life, you can blame it on your parents' divorce. Dude, you're going through a hard time. You're only 13. This is a pivotal time. I was like literally having this conversation. And I was like, man, that all sounds right. And then the little angel on my other shoulder is like, hey, listen, you're right. You can do all those things and you can blame your parents. But listen, you have to live inside of that life that you create. It's still, in other words, it's still your life. So if you want to blame them, that's fine, but you have to go live the life. And I remember thinking to myself, man, that's good advice. And I was like, I'm going to pick my own decisions here. Like, I'm going to make a decision to not blame it on them my whole life. I'm going to go make my own life. What a profound little decision for a 12-year-old or 13-year-old to kind of think of like that, you know, and kind of process through, like, I'm not going to blame them forever. You know, I'm going to go live my own life. And if I'm going to succeed, I'm going to succeed. If I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail, but I'm not blaming them for it. Second one for me was when I started my first business at 25. I think one of the biggest challenges that people have, particularly people that would associate with you that would have proximity, would be hearing your voice. it's not the fear of failure. My guess is there's people that will listen to this that already like are successful in their career, they're making some money, etc., but they're feeling like they're called to more. So why are they not stepping up and doing more? It's not the fear of failing, it's the fear of appearing small. It's like the fear of starting over again. You're just like, dude, I'm killing it in real estate. Now I got to go start this thing. Like, and I feel like I had a little bit of that, of just like, what if I just look small? Like, what if and I had a little of the failure thing too, but just what if I just go out there and people are like, you're a loser. Like, what do you know about being in business? Like, you shouldn't do this. And so getting over that. And then another really vivid one was when my business failed. I mean, dude, you talk to any successful person, what they've learned to do, I know you guys could teach a whole seminar on this subject, is they've learned to like take failure and like, I call it to convert it, like convert the hurt of it into fuel. Like they convert it into fuel. So failure is not final, it's fertilizer, and your success grows in the fertilizer failure. Like you learn to just, okay, got it. Like you adjust and adapt and keep going. You adjust and adapt and keep going. And that's what I felt like I was able to do, is I just fortunately got up off the getting bucked off, proverbially off, the business horse, get back up, dust yourself off and go again. And, one other quick thing I'll share. And by the way, all of these things are identity. This is all identity. You're stepping into a new identity, an identity of being a victor versus a victim, the identity of being a business owner versus an employee. Those are identities. And the identity of like, I'm not going to let this failure define me. That's identity. Like, I'm going to be tougher than this, bigger than this, stronger, more resilient. Another one for me, guys, that was a big decision point was, so Steph's probably heard this story. So in 1666, Christopher Wren was commissioned to rebuild St. Paul's Cathedral. And so he walks up 5 years later, 1671, it had burned down. And he sees three men working. And he says to the first man, "Sir, what are you doing?" And the guy's laying bricks. He says, "I'm a bricklayer. I'm laying bricks to feed my family." He then walks further to the next man, "Sir, what are you doing?" He says, "I'm a wall builder. I'm building a wall." He says to the third man, "Sir, what are you doing?" He says, "I'm a cathedral builder. I'm building a cathedral to the Almighty." All three were doing the exact same work, but all three identified it differently. They saw the grandeur of what they were doing differently. One was laying bricks, one was building walls, one was building empires. There was a shift, Clayton, that I had of like, I'm going to go into like empire mode versus build a business mode. I'm going to go into empire mode versus survive mode. And that was a big shift from like a wealth building perspective. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're not just making dollars to make a dollar. You're kind of like, I got a bigger plan here. You know what I'm saying? Like I got a bigger strategy. And that's identity. Empire builder is an identity. And one thing I would encourage your audience to say is, listen, there's nothing wrong with laying brick. There's nothing wrong with building walls. There's nothing wrong with building empires. If you're going to do the same work, shift that identity and learn the strategies to get into empire mindset to where you build true, financial significance, at least for yourself and for your family and so on, versus just laying bricks all day. You're going to do the work either way. So that's a big identity shift.
That's awesome. So it sounds like to me, you were just really good at always reframing your circumstances into something that was more inspiring, and then choosing that vision to follow, if I'm hearing you correct. My other question is, who is the, throughout, they've probably changed, I'm assuming, throughout your life, but who have you chosen to be a mentor throughout these various phases of your life? Like, when you were a kid, was it your dad or your mom? Was it, or maybe it was both of them? Was it a friend? Did you have those people in your life? Did you have to seek them out? I know you're very big, like Clayton and I are, of getting in the room and going to events, and you've probably formed lots of relationships there, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about, along this journey, who were the people that really inspired you the most, that you kind of latched on to achieve success?
Yeah, I've absolutely done that. To your point, though, they've shifted over the years. In other words, some of them have stayed with you the whole time, but some of them, you were really inspired here, and then, for whatever reason, a season changed. Kobe Bryant, who some would argue is the greatest of all time, but is certainly one of them. Like, in other words, he's in that like top 3 to 5 range discussion, right? Who did Kobe model? because Kobe didn't just turn into Kobe. Kobe modeled. He modeled Jordan. Like he literally modeled. If you look at young Kobe, the way he like literally footwork was I'm talking down to like meticulous modeling, right? Footwork was modeled, dribbling was modeled, shooting was modeled. The way he chewed his gum was modeled. The way he did interviews was modeled. Later in his career, he kind of became like Black Mamba Kobe. In other words, like almost like created his own version of who he was. But at first, it was like just this like a young version of Jordan, basically, is what it was, right? And he just modeled him. I had kind of a similar thing. One of the fastest ways to success is you want to model mentors. So one of mine was a gentleman named Nathan Ricks. Nathan is so interesting, guys. Some of your biggest mentors you'll never meet. They're in books or they're on podcasts like this. You'll literally get poured into, and you'll gain proximity with people that are not even in your orbit. Like, in other words, you actually don't physically know them. So I was introduced to Nathan the very first day I started my business, 25 years old. I was handed a DVD. This is back in the day, right? So the guy hands me this DVD and he goes, this guy's the best in the world at this profession. I wasn't in his company. I didn't have any connection. I had no connection to this guy because he's the best in the world at what you're going to go looking at doing. It'd be like getting into real estate as an agent. And someone said, this is the best agent on the planet, something like that. So I went and watched this DVD. The DVD is probably 2.5 hours long. And it was this training that this guy named Nathan Ricks did. Well, Nathan had gone from, he was a self-made billionaire, later in his career, but he had built just an empire in his business of generating cash, but then took that and then built this massive real estate empire and a bunch of other stuff. And he was a really amazing, what you want is interesting though, about 12 years into my career, I actually met him for the first time face-to-face. He owned he still does, but he owned a bunch of Class A office space. And I meet at one of his big, huge Class A buildings, and we walk in there and I said to him, I go, this is a little weird. What I'm about to say to you. And he goes, what's up? And I go, bro, I've been chasing you for 12 years, dude. I've like modeled my life after you. I've snuck into meetings that you've done. I listened to conference calls that you've done. Like I modeled him. I actually modeled him not only in business, but even as a father and his faith, the whole thing. On January 2nd of this year, I fly my family private to the Rose Bowl. So my University of Utah, bless our hearts, we're 2 years in a row in the Rose Bowl, and we're 2 years in a row of losing in the Rose Bowl. But anyway, so I fly my family private. We got my cute little girls in there. They put the U on their cheek, and we're all dressed up in our Utah gear like you would for whatever team you cheer for. We fly there private, which means you touch down right before the game. You call your pilot, yo, we're ready to go. It's just you're like living the dream, dude, at this point, right? And I get a text during literally the national anthem, fly over. They have the jets flying over. It's just it's the Rose Bowl. So it's a granddaddy mall. It's this crazy thing. I get this, my phone starts blowing up. And Nathan Ricks, this mentor of mine, was flying in his own private jet. He's a pilot, and they crashed and he died on January 2nd. I'm like sitting there. I'm just like, this is freaking surreal, dude. Are you kidding me? Like, it was just surreal. Obviously rest in peace for him and God bless his family and his wife and so on. His wife survived the crash. The other two people in the planes or in the jet both survived the crash, but Nathan didn't. Mm-hmm. And I share that with you to say, to say two things. One is, we became business partners. I invested millions of dollars in projects. I mean, I was just like this, like mentor from afar became a mentor in person, and, but I also tell people, and this talks a lot about mentoring. You don't want to be too casual with your life, dude. You got to be urgent. You got to live with some urgency, not frantic, but focused, highly, highly focused. And, some of these mentors that you have, they're not going to be here forever. So you want to make sure that you're urgent in your life. Like you have a pep in your step. Like Marcus Aurelius was the last and great 5th Roman emperor. He says memento mori, which basically says meditate on mortality. It's just to remind yourself that we're all going to die. So like, don't get too casual. Don't hang around too long. So Nathan was a great mentor. I've had many others throughout the years, a bunch of them. John Maxwell did the foreword for my book. I've learned a ton from John. The number one thing I've learned from John, by the way, you guys have been around John quite a bit as well. The number one thing from John, and this is what I would say kind of behind the scenes. This guy, so right now, John's he's 76 years old at the time we're having this conversation. That guy's vision for his life is so clear that he has like almost superhuman energy. Meaning, how it is. It's almost like if you like accomplish everything, you're just kind of like, I'm just going to lay on the couch for a second because I'm like tired and I did it all, dude, he's always talking about where he's going. You know, he writes 100 books, sells 35 million copies. He doesn't talk about that. He talks about the next book he's writing and the next 2 books he's writing and the next event and the next country. It's incredible. It's incredible. His vision's so clear on all these things he wants to accomplish versus most of us would be like, yo, bro, that's good. You know, I'm good 27 books ago, you know, kind of thing. So what a great, you know, there's many lessons I've learned from him behind the scenes, but that would be maybe the biggest one is this superhuman energy because his vision's so vivid and he keeps it so fresh in his mind of what he's trying to accomplish. So I've had many, many great mentors. Aristotle says, if I've seen further, it's only by standing on the shoulders of giants. And that has definitely been what my journey's been like.
So is that how you avoid the trap of becoming complacent? Brendan Burchard talks about the 3 types of people: caged, comfortable, charged. And I know that throughout my life, I've been in one of those 3 at different phases of my life. Well, one of the ones that Clayton and I struggle not getting sucked back into is the category of comfortable, because, and I know you've obviously achieved this, like you've done well enough. You don't have to go out and work as hard as you did when you were starting, like, as you mentioned, when you were selling, you know, animated cartoons in a kiosk in the mall. Like you don't have to work as hard now as you did then because of how hard you have worked up to this point. So is that mortality, we like to call it mortality motivation, is that what keeps you from falling back into that place? Are there any other tips that you can give people to keep from slipping back into that place? Because it's hard when you and I think being in that place of comfortable is just as bad as being caged, because both of them are going to keep you from getting to the next level.
So the worst thing for ambition is comfort. You know, comfort is the enemy of progress. You get just comfortable enough that here's the thing about comfort. It doesn't hurt bad enough to change. And you're also not inspired, or in using your word, not charged up enough to like go for it. You're just right there in the death zone, which is the middle, right? So you'll learn a lot about someone by when they get comfortable. So for example, is it 100 grand a year? Is it $1 million a year? Is it 10 million a year? Is it 100 million a year? Like at what point are you just like, I'm good, dude. Like I'm good. You'll learn a lot. And when I do an exercise, Steph, I think I've walked you through this before. Clayton, you may have done this as well, but one of the exercises I do, like at some of my events, is I'll have people write down 50 things. It's actually in the book. I walk people through this exercise in the book. 50 things you would like to accomplish in the next 10 years. Okay. Not 15, 50. And you have to it's a workshop. I have to walk people through because it's like a download. It's like a mental download. And you'll normally get people that will get to, let's call it 12, 13, 14, 15. And they're kind of like, dude, if I had the first 3 of these, you know, redo the bathroom, no more minivan. I want a Tahoe, go from apartment to house. I'm kind of like, I'm good. I don't like number 4 is, I don't know, like get the kids braces. Like in other words, at some point we're like, I'm out of things to think of, you know? One of the things I like to do is I like to be like, let's get you thinking outside of yourself. Because what happens a lot of times is we can literally become comfortable because like our needs are met. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm good, dude. Like got a roof over my head. I got food in my stomach. The kids are healthy. Like my marriage is great. Like what, you know, spiritual connection. Like I'm good. Like I'm fit. You know, in other words, I'm in shape. Like I've got my life together. So why keep grinding? Why keep pushing? And it's because you start to attach to things that are bigger than just you. You know, it's like service to many leads to greatness. How do I serve more people? Where much is given, much is required. Why? It's because you got to keep going, because it's bigger than just what you can do or who you are, like, you know, satisfying your own needs. And it's almost like a little bit of hierarchy, you know, like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like, if we can get you have oxygen, you got food, you know what I'm saying? Like the hierarchy. Once we get past some of these, how can we go serve the greater good? Like, what is your bigger vision to serve other people? And what's so interesting is human beings, as selfish as human beings can be, and as selfish as, you know, inherently maybe we are, we'll also do things for other people we won't even do for ourselves. You know, we'll go grind for others. Something like a mom would lay it on the line for a child in a split second without even thinking. A father would too. Where if it was their own situation, like, yeah, I'm good, you know, whatever. You guys just go. Like we wouldn't press so hard for ourselves. So that's one thing I think we can do is start thinking outside of just us. And part of the be the one to me is you want to be the one that lives a life and writes a story that future generations of kids who are yet unborn know your story. So in other words, when they look up into that family lineage, they can tell your story. That's only going to happen if you impact more than just your life. You've got to like live a significant life that's impacting multiple people, and in this case, multiple generations.
So good. I love that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, because I mean, Justin, I knew that you were going to go there, but I think it's so, I had a coffee appointment with, a gentleman yesterday, and he was just talking about how he's made the decision to kind of step back and, just so that he can be more present with his family and not, I think we can all get caught up in that grind, but he was kind of talking more about the money equation and less about the impact equation, right? And I think it's so important for people to realize, like, so when we met with, had an opportunity to have dinner with John, about a month or so ago, John Maxwell, and one of the things that he said to us that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life was, he's just, I mean, he doesn't need any money. To him, it's all about impacting lives, right? And for kingdom purposes. And so, the fact that he is so jacked up at 70, how old is he? 76. So jacked up to go and impact as many people as he possibly can, because his mission is bigger than him, right? And he's not doing it for him. He's doing it for, in his case, he's doing it for Jesus. So, I wrote these 5 things down, the other day, like the key to happiness. And one of the keys is think of others more and yourself less. That was actually number 1 on the list, right? So I think it's so important for our listeners to hear what you just said, Justin, because at some point, and this actually happens, I think, pretty early on, money does not, I mean, in the beginning, you're like, yes, like, especially if you don't have it, you're like, yes, like I'm going to get the cars and the houses and the thing, but very quickly that wears off. And if you're not impacting other people, then you can get stuck in that comfortable place. Right. And, so I love what you just said. So Justin, as we kind of wrap up, when things do get tough, which they inevitably do, like we're in an environment right now for, I think, most businesses where there's some shifting going on, especially in my world in real estate, with interest rates doing what they're doing. And, what do you do? How do you prepare yourself, or what do you do to push through? When times are, when the business gets a little rocky and things aren't, because, we go through these peaks and valleys, right? There's a time to plant, a time to reap, and a time to sow, right? So how do you personally kind of get through those really tough times?
So first of all, your description of basically the market conditions is 1,000% accurate. This is a strange time, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's a lot of doubt and fear in the market. There's just a lot of new, like, we've never had inflation like this in our lifetimes. For example, we've never had a recession as far as negative GDP with interest, with unemployment kind of hanging in there, even though you're seeing that shift. So
can we call it a recession, Justin? Can we call it a recession?
Well, this is the thing.
The government tells us it's not a recession, Justin. Well, so we're in a recession. Please continue.
For all definitions that we've all known, we're absolutely in a recession. In fact, we're probably 18 months into it.
Yeah.
You have administrations, that would say we're not, and they would point to things like low interest rate. Normally what would happen is GDP goes down. I'm so sorry, not low interest rate, low unemployment, pardon me. Normally what happens is GDP goes down and unemployment goes up. Right now, so if you had to defend them, you would say it is a weird time, because unemployment has stayed relatively low. Again, that is shifting. It's literally shifting right now. You're seeing this happen with more and more companies. The point, though, is there is these weird indicators. They're all kind of screwy. They're all a little bit off, and there's a bunch of other things that are kind of screwy too. So point is, how do you get through it? A couple of things I would share. Number one, it's so funny, we're on this proximity podcast, but I tell people, stay close to the fire. Your proximity matters right now. Like, you got to stay close. Leaders don't wait for the information to find them. Leaders run to the information. I saw you guys the other day at another podcast with, the PBD podcast, like, went out of your way to be there. That's what leaders do. That's what leaders do. Leaders run to the information. They don't wait for it to find them. So you want to stay close to the fire. Stay close to people who who are plugged in, stay close to people that are making their life happen, that are navigating the tough times. Number one. Number two is I would encourage you to like basically turn off all news. So in other words, the negativity, the doubt, the fear, all the weeds in your mind, they grow automatically. You have to proactively plant the flowers. You have to proactively plant the positive in your mind. So it's like an avoid, but then also a pour into your mind strategy. So like you avoid all the negative drain on you, but you're pouring proactively. You're staying close to the fire. I would be dialed into podcasts right now. I'd be dialed into really, really great books. They're going to inspire you. Like get that stuff in your mind, like proactively as much as you possibly can. Third thing I'll just quickly say is you have to adjust and adapt. You can't just keep doing the wrong thing over and over and over and over and over and smash your face against the wall and hoping it's going to change. Listen, you can still, maybe you go over the wall, maybe under, maybe you go around one way or the other. Maybe you find a hammer. Like what I'm saying is you have to adjust and adapt during tough times. And it's actually the tough times are when you build the most muscle. And I have real estate professional friends of mine, Clayton, it'd be interesting to hear if you're experiencing some of this. I had real estate friends. So in 08 and 08, 09, I had a ton of real estate friends that bounced out. There's like, dude, mortgage, real estate. There's like, I'm out. The ones that stayed and built the muscle and like persevered, they own the market today. I mean, they built huge market share. The point I'm saying is that's true of most industries. If you can build the muscle right now, you'll separate yourself from everybody else because everyone else, it like thins the herd. The weak kind of just die off, So you adjust and adapt, but you also say, I'm going to improve right now to own market share. Like I'm going to continue to, because inevitably the sun's coming up at some point, inevitably the market shifts. And at that point, that's when you can really go own market share in a really, really dramatic way. So those are some of the things that I'm doing. One other quick mindset, this is a little bit identity mindset. I hope that this doesn't just talk right over people's heads. Cause if you're feeling like you're in a really challenging financial situation right now, this may feel like I'm talking past you. I'm not. This is applicable to you, but it's what I call add a zero. You want to get into add a zero mode. So if you look at some of the biggest wealth transfers that have ever happened in the United States, they all happen during down economies, tough times. And add a zero means if you're worth 10,000 right now as your net worth, let's be strategic right now to get you when we come out of this thing that you're worth 100,000. If you're worth 100, let's be worth $1 million. If you're worth $1 million, 10 million. If you're worth 10, let's be worth 100. Because as the market recedes, those that know what the heck they're doing and can like navigate it properly, when it comes back, they can really crank. So I'm a little bit in out of zero mode right now, dude. I'm in empire mode right now, and trying to navigate, trying to adjust, trying to adapt, staying very close to the fire, and avoiding negative and pouring in a lot of positive. But I'm doing it with kind of a bigger purpose of like, this is going to be the market's going to bounce back, and you'll have good days, and the good days won't last forever. People will think those last forever. Those don't last forever. The winter always comes back again. So we're still in winter for sure.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, this has been such an honor. I know we have to wrap up here because you have other podcasts, I think, maybe to get on. But I did just want to close by saying thank you so much for your time here today, for pouring into us, pouring into our guests, the people that are also getting in the room, listening to this podcast. And I'd love for you to just share, when will your book officially be released? When can people get it? And we'll be putting all the details in the notes of this show.
Well, so first of all, love you guys, man. I'm so excited you're doing this. I'm excited to listen and learn and to gain even additional proximity with both of you. So the book launches September 26th. It'll be in all the newsstands and, the official launch across the country. We're building right now. People are doing pre-orders. We're doing like a 30% off. People that are buying them in bulk, we put it like a couple $1,000s worth of additional trainings and promotions. One that John's done, a couple that I've done that are really, really profound stuff. I did one on wealth building. I did one on finding your focus, like really tapping into your superpower of focus, which right now is what people need. And the book, simply put, the book will change your life. The book will change your life. Like it's funny. I was reading the audio version in Vegas last week, and you guys know how it is. A book, first of all, is like the biggest labor of love on the planet. It's like, a year and a half project trying to get it done. It's just brutal. And I'm going through the audio and I'm reading it, and I'm like, it like reminded you, you're like, this freaking book is amazing. You know, like you're going through these chapters, like, this is so good. And I don't say that to self-promote, other than like, it's 42 years of all this knowledge of like, how did you go from broken home and no college education to a couple $1 billion in revenue? It's like, I put it all into these little chapters, and they're stuff that our kids could learn. And there's stuff that like our mentors could learn. You know, our mentors would be like, God, that's right. Let me polish that thing up. Because most of knowing is remembering. Most learning is remembering, you know? And so I'm really excited to get into people's hands. I think that it's going to be a big awakening for people to remember that their life, that they are the one. And you realize that identity of like, man, my life really does matter. It really, there's a lot of significance to who I am and what I'm doing. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that in like your life has meaning and purpose and value. Like you're not here by accident, like your life matters. And then the second thing is really practical steps to go be that person, to go be the best version of yourself, and to step into that, who you truly are. I think you'll be motivated and inspired, but more importantly for me, you'll have the tool sets that you need to actually make it happen. Because to me, motivation's great and inspiration's super important. Breathing life into people's great. But I want them to like leave with like practical, like I now know what to do. I know what to say. I know how to act to really be the one in my life.
I love that. Everybody's looking for more practical.
Yeah. And let me just say this, you know, he just told you, if you didn't pick up on this, that he's 42 years old. Okay. So, if you are not following Justin, you can follow him on most social at I am Justin Prince, and go buy the book. I mean, this young man has had a major impact on both of our lives. He's a mentor to both of us, and he's got it. And you don't get it unless you've worked really, really hard.
Unless you've earned it.
Mm-hmm. And he's earned it. And you just want to be in proximity to this young man. So Justin, we love you. We appreciate you. Can't wait to read the book, brother. Have an amazing day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you. Appreciate you guys so much.
Love you too.
Okay.